Okay, Madam Chair, we are live and streaming.
So I will start the meeting. Good afternoon. I'm Jane Matthews. I am the chair of the Design Review Committee, and I welcome you to this meeting on August 19th, 2021. This is a 9-person committee whose primary function is to perform design review for projects located in one of the City of Asheville's 3 designated design review areas: downtown Asheville, the riverfront, and the new hotel overlay zoning districts. This is a mandatory review, voluntary compliance process, with one exception for hotels seeking to skip council review. Hotels taking advantage of this incentive must receive a positive recommendation from this committee. All committee members and staff are participating virtually today, and we appreciate your patience as we work online. We are also streaming live on the City of Asheville's Virtual Engagement Hub, which is accessible through the Virtual Engagement Hub link on the front page of the city's website, and also linked on the individual committee page. You can also watch the meeting on the city's YouTube channel. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone by calling 855-925-9801 and enter code 9410. When we get to the public comment section at the end, you may dial the same number and press *3. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. I will now go through and introduce all the committee members who are participating virtually. Committee, please make sure to mute your microphone if you are not speaking, and when you have a question or would like to speak, unmute your microphone. Please remember to mute your phone after you are done speaking. Committee members, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Karen Craig-Nolan? She's not here. Okay. Jeremy Goldstein?
Hello.
Good afternoon, Jeremy. Kimberly Hunter?
Good afternoon.
Hi, Kim. Stephen Lee Johnson?
Hello.
Hey, Stephen Lee. Brian Moffitt?
Hello.
Hey, Brian. Ben Williamson?
Hey, good afternoon.
Hey. And then we have one confirmed absence of Vice Chair Robin Rains. So to help our audience follow along, I'll state each section of the agenda aloud and do a vocal roll call for each vote if there is a vote to be taken. Additionally, I ask that committee members raise their hand to speak, and I will call upon them. We will begin our administrative items and any unfinished business. So the first item on our administrative agenda is approval of the minutes for July 15th, 2021, which was distributed to everybody today. Is there any discussion or a motion for approval?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jeremy Goldstein and a second by Kimberly Hunter. Any other discussion?
Chair, Jane, this is Sage.
Yes, Sage.
I just wanted to mark myself as present, and I'm not actually clear. This is my first meeting. I'm not clear if I'm a voting or non-voting member. I'm assuming non-voting.
So I point that to Sasha. Sasha's shaking her head. Yes, you're non-voting.
You're not voting. You're a council liaison, so you're not.
Yeah.
You're not like officially like an appointee.
Yeah, it's different on every board. So thank you.
And I will also comment, because there were 2 of us absent at this June meeting, that I will just kind of reiterate the Robert's Rules of Order, that you actually, even if you were absent, you are voting on this approval of these minutes, not as an approval that you were in attendance, but that you approve your the intent of the counterparts who were participating and the review of this information that was provided. So so I just want to reiterate that for Brian and myself. We were both absent from that meeting. So okay, I will call the question. Jeremy Goldstein.
Aye.
Kimberly Hunter.
Aye.
Stephen Lee Johnson.
Aye.
Brian Moffitt.
Aye.
Ben Williamson.
Aye.
And myself, aye. So it has been approved unanimously. We will now, let's see, I think that's the only thing under administrative business that well, other than new projects. So we'll move on to new business. And the first item on our agenda, we have two projects today seeking formal design review. We will take these cases in the order that they appear on the agenda. Staff will kick things off with a short presentation, after which the applicant or the design team members will be invited to speak. Once presentations are done, we will also pause to take any public comment. Please keep in mind that it is not uncommon to have technology issues during these presentations, such as a screen freezing, or during public comment, such as participants losing connections. If this happens, exit the meeting and re-enter using the same link or call-in number you used to join. We will now begin with the first new business item on our agenda, which is 18 Broadway Street, a level 1 project. Turn it over to Sasha.
Thank you, Jane, or Chairwoman Matthews. Yes, so this is a project at 18 Broadway. It is a small building, historic building built in approximately 1912, 1915. It is on the National Register as a contributing structure in our national district. The current facade, I guess I'm going to go to Google Maps super fast. Sorry about that.
It is on the drawing sheet, Sasha, if you need
It is,
to.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
True. Thank you. But just as a reminder for folks, the AC Hotel is right here, the former location of the Langren Hotel. This is the structure as it is currently. And it is in the drawing set. You're right. The lower part of this facade has been changed away from the historic, what it used to be. So I will go, it's down here. So this is the facade here on the left as it is today. And the proposed changes are here on the right. So mainly this review is just about the facade. So it's not a new building. A lot of the UDO pieces don't really apply. So it's a much more narrow review. And I did include in the drive in your package, there are some, there aren't a lot of great historic photos of this site. Most of the photos, people were taking pictures of the Langren Hotel. Here, maybe from the 20s or 30s, the building had an awning on it. And this is from the 1950s. It's pretty dark here for the lower facade. You can't see very much. And it seems that we're not sure if these are Richard Sharp Smith buildings. They might be, but the Trusses building at 20.
They are Richard Sharp Smith.
They are, okay.
Yeah.
The Trusses building at 28 Broadway is somewhat similar to what I think this facade used to be, with a recessed door, perhaps this second door that we see today at 18. The second door here, maybe that may be original location, I should say. Let me see, where am I? Sorry. But it probably had a storefront kind of flush with the front of the building, with these kind of lower trusses. It looks like they took old tin ceilings, tiles, and put them out here. So going back to the proposed changes, in my staff report, I kind of outlined the different guidelines that we're kind of using to evaluate this proposal. The second floor window is being left intact, which is a historic feature, which is good. Perhaps the biggest item of concern is the loss of this gabled parapet. We brought this project to the Downtown Commission just for comment last Friday, and there seemed to be general agreement that keeping that element would be the preferred option. And I won't speak for Brian, but there was a discussion of, this lower storefront has been changed so much over the years that, coming back with something different is okay. My concern has been, does it fit the texture does it fit kind of the context of Asheville? I mean, I understand, I think it's trying to make it look like a French bakery, perhaps, and that's fine. And then, the only other issue I would say is that there is a frame under here of where I believe there were transoms, where you see this panel here across the top. There were probably most likely transom windows there, and the frame still seems to be there. And there was a comment at the Downtown Commission by Robin, actually, who's not here today, that it would be preferable to keep that transom and then do the arched windows below. I know that would change the kind of ratio in the design of those. So in my staff report, I went through the recommendations around rehabilitation, and really the design guidelines are emphasizing keeping the character of the block, maintaining historic elements, and trying to maintain original things like transoms and storefronts and things like that. Now, at the same time, if we say, okay, well, the bottom part of this storefront is being completely replaced because it's already been altered so much, then we would look to the guidelines for new construction, and it does generally follow those guidelines, I would say. My concern has partly been about kind of, are we creating something that is false and is not really of Asheville? So I think so kind of after the Downtown Commission kind of reconsidered and kind of came to the conclusion if the gabled parapet could be kept, then staff would support the design. So that's the motion, and that's how the recommendation's written, and that's the motion I put there. And then, that sums up my comments, and I would turn it over to either Brent or David for any comments, and I'm happy to if you want me to move what page we're on, happy to do that. Brent, do you want to go ahead or?
Yeah, I can. I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I think you summed it up pretty well. Can y'all hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Yeah, I'm sure everyone's aware. Currently, Melinda's across the street in a much smaller space with kind of a line around the block. And so she purchased this building with the dream of kind of creating this new destination, a new brand, and a giant kitchen, and being able to operate in a more efficient way. And so none of this was kind of taken lightly. Like this, she's done a lot of research on the aesthetics she's going for, and looking at precedents around the world. And this is sort of where it evolved to. So it wasn't kind of an arbitrary style that we kind of randomly chose. It's based on her kind of vision for the property, and that's where it landed. The existing transom, we tried to investigate a little bit. It's still kind of boxed in. I'm not sure if anything's left of it. You can kind of see some of the frame under the awning, but we're gonna have to do some more demo to see what actually is still there. Yeah, the plan is to create a small area off the sidewalk that's recessed, have enough room to swing these doors out and create a little bit of relief from the sidewalk. It's not super narrow right there, but we try to do a similar thing to Ananda next door, where they just created a small space out in front that runs the length of the building. We're still working through how the sidewalk's going to work with all that. Ananda was able to not have a curb there and kind of feather things up to the facade without too much of a slope. And so we've got our civil engineer kind of doing a computer model of what the slope's happening there and what it will be. And so Sasha, I know you said that we're going to be getting into a guardrail or a planter or something on that curb, but some of that is a little bit TBD based on the digital model that they do of the sidewalk.
That makes sense.
But yeah, that's about it. I mean, there's a lot going on inside, but on the outside, that's kind of the scope of the work. And if anybody has any questions, we can dip into a little bit.
Brent, I have a question to start things off. If you could talk a little bit about why you decided to flatten the roof and get rid of the pediment. I couldn't see a true justification for it, other than maybe aesthetics, that your client had. But if you could talk about why that change, that's a pretty radical change.
It's a purely aesthetic decision. There's some there are some financial savings in that the pediment. David might be able to talk a little bit more about this, but basically there's some deterioration of the mortar and the brick and the parapet and the flashing and all the things that would have to happen up there on that existing parapet. So there's some financial incentive, but it's primarily a branding vision for a new aesthetic for this building and the future home of Old Europe.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Brian?
Sasha, could you pull up your historic context, that first image, please?
Like-
You sent out one that was, yeah, that one right there. Thank you very much. So at one time, this was a part of a bigger piece of the facade. The building to the left was part of this design.
Yeah.
All of this stuff went together. And then it's kind of been separated, and then we've lost the ornament, basically that design to the left of this existing building. I want to say a couple quick things. One, the Downtown Commission was very much in favor of this project based on the owner and the type of business. I'm remembering Robin's comment a little differently, Sasha, but I could be wrong. But one of the things that we pointed out is that recessing the entrance was in keeping with the downtown master plan and our some of what we're trying to do in regards to creating pedestrian spaces and pedestrian friendly design. And so that I think that recess is actually probably a pretty good idea. And based on the fact that we've lost pretty much the original design at this point, I can even support, the windows and the fenestration as shown. So my real concern is with the, as Jane said, with that pediment. I think that is a historically significant piece of the building. I think that's actually probably that and the distinctive lintel, arched lintel over the windows. Those are the two most distinctive things remaining about the design. And so I would support it if you could keep that. Basically, that would be one of the conditions I would move forward with. But everything else, I think I would be in support of. I do have one question. So there's this, Sasha, if you don't mind going back to Brent's new proposed elevation. Thank you. Perfect. That one right there that you were at is perfect. So there's this weird little shoulder thing right beside the pediment to the right of it that I guess was then part of it mirrored about, and then it kind of separated the building, the original part of this design to the left, but it's kind of gone now. Now it's just hanging out. Do you know what that is, Brent, and what's going on there?
We're trying to.
You see the part I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right?
So if you look at the drawing on the left, you can see that the windows aren't symmetrical in that facade.
Right.
And so we've been trying to piece together what exactly was going on, and I don't know yet, because if you go upstairs to that wall on the second floor, it's a wood frame wall. Like the masonry wall doesn't go past the main level. So there's something happened, and it was connected to another building right there or something,
Right.
because it's not framed the way any of the other downtown buildings are framed and built that we've worked on. So
Well, it looks like in the that historic context photo that Sasha showed that maybe there was a mirroring piece. Yeah, it looks like I can see that piece. Yeah, that one right there where she has her cursor on the left. I just was curious. That's not really.
Yeah, it must have been one on the left before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just curious about if it still existed like in the building to the left or not, but it might be covered up. Who knows? Anyway, that's my 2 cents, and I'll try to shut up.
But just to touch on your first comment about the pediment, Sasha let us know everyone's thoughts about that, months ago. So there's been a lot of discussion and kind of searching about that with Melinda and trying to, decide the best course of action to balance the historic nature of the building plus with her vision. And she's taken all that into consideration, and that's been heard by everybody for a while. So we're not, we've known, and we're working through it and trying to find a balance. Hearing all these opinions, so it's appreciated.
Thank you.
I have just a question, Brent. Did Melinda think at all about historic tax credits? Because that would have been eligible, this project, the restoration or all of her repairs. Yeah.
She unfortunately is spending so much on the building that she wasn't going to meet the adjusted basis for the remodel at this time. She's doing it in a phased project. And so monetarily, she actually is not meeting the guidelines, right? Because the cost of the building is so expensive.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Right. But it was brought up to her, of course.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions for the applicant? Kimberly?
Yeah, I just want to say, actually, I like the design as is. I think it's keeping in step with the needs of today, and especially pedestrian access, the windows. And I understand the change in design from not just an aesthetic point of view, but potentially a building maintenance point of view, that if you're going to go in and just kind of do it, just get it done, you all know the condition of everything, and you kind of start with a new, fresh palette and template. So I just want to say that I actually think it's quite beautiful, and really excited that this business gets to kind of have a more firm and larger presence in the downtown corridor. So thanks.
Thanks, Kim. Is there anybody else on the committee that'd like to say something? So Sasha, I guess, do we just move on to the next project at this point before we take public comment, or we take public comment now?
Oh, we've been taking public comment per project.
Okay. Okay, so staff, I guess we'll now connect any calls we might have for public comment. I don't know if we have any.
Chair, we don't have any callers in the queue at this time.
Thank you, Dana.
I think there are a couple people watching and listening, but not because they don't want to say anything. I guess, can I just ask a question, Chair? I guess my question is for Brent. So then, from my understanding, is that the owner really does not want to consider keeping the gabled pediment.
No, we're considering that. All these comments, from you and the community. She has a pretty large pool of focus group too that we're working with, just because it's kind of a really big deal for her to move over here and create this design that she's going to be living with for the rest of the business. So we've been garnering a lot of opinions and city feedback, and yeah, everything is still on the table. It's just it's that old adage where she basically, her attitude is you ask for what you want, and this is her ideal vision.
Excellent.
So that's what we're presenting.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further comment? Shannon Tuck has joined the meeting, but if not, is there a motion?
Chair, I move to recommend approval of the 18 Broadway project as presented based on site plans, elevations, and materials submitted and discussions heard during this review, with the condition that the gabled parapet, a historic feature, is retained in the new design, and we find that the project meets the intent of the downtown design guidelines.
Is there a second?
I second.
Kim Hunter has seconded. Okay. Oh. Jeremy, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. So this is, if we vote on this and it passes, it doesn't prevent the applicant from doing what they want. It just demonstrates that the collective design review committee really thinks they should keep the gable. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
We've done our job. Okay. What I'll do is call the roll for a vote. Jeremy Goldstein.
Aye.
Kim Hunter.
Aye.
Stephen Lee Johnson.
Aye.
Brian Moffitt.
Aye.
Ben Williamson.
Aye.
And myself, I'll vote no. So the motion is carried. I'll give that count on that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1. Is that right, Sasha?
Yeah.
So Brent, you have approval from this committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time. Thank you, your client as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Jeremy, you have another question?
Yeah, sorry. So that was, make sure I understood what I just voted for. Brian suggested approving it subject to them maintaining the gable at the top. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
I actually didn't hear it that way. Brian, will you clarify then? I heard it differently.
I said with the condition that the gabled parapet historic feature is retained in the new design.
Okay, thanks.
He read literally the suggested motion. So, okay. So thank you, Brent. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll keep you guys posted.
Great.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So the second item on the new business agenda, item B, is the New Belgium Brewing Level 1 project for the addition of a canopy over existing outdoor seating, a deck expansion, and some other work. Sasha, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you. So this is a project at New Belgium. This basically this beer garden, as you see right here on the left, and I'll make that a little bigger for you. This is an existing seating area today, and my understanding, and it's in their statement as well, that the plans we're seeing today were originally conceived of when New Belgium was being built, excuse me, and not an intended pun. But value engineering happens, and they weren't able to build it out fully as they wanted to. So what we're seeing today was the intended design from originally. And so really, because it's already an existing seating area and it's not really increasing the capacity, it's not a change in use, it's not triggering any additional site compliance. New Belgium was approved as a conditional use permit, and that is still in operation today. So this is the site plan. Basically, there is a new canopy. And there's a small, deck expansion on the rear. So I'm going to. It's easier to understand, frankly, from the color drawings that they submitted. So I think the paved area may increase a little bit with a landscaped edge around the seating area, and then this deck expansion on the rear. And another part of the project is also just adding a roof to the existing deck that's on the rear of the Liquid Center. So in the middle of that seating area is a rectangular shaped canopy system. And here's the deck extension on the right, overlooking the river. So this is a helpful illustration, actually. And then there's also a small, on the right, a small stage area that also has a shade structure over it, or solid roof structure, it says. So, and the fire pit is already existing there today, so that stays where it is. This is just a different point of view. This is showing grass, but from the landscape plan, this is heavily planted. So there's quite a number of new trees here. And there's small, like, kind of string lights underneath this canopy system. And then there's barrel planters around the edges of the seating area as well. So let's see. I'll just switch really quickly to the landscape plan. They provided, pictures of the materials, the steel railing, the light. Let me zoom in, sorry. the lighting here underneath the canopy. And then here's the landscape plan. And also, just as a quick note here, this is the bridge that goes to the creek. And so between this path and the seating area, there's also landscaping here, kind of on the lower left. That's today it's just grass, so that's probably a great addition. And I noted my staff report. Sorry. So there's 6 new oak trees and 3 witch hazels, and then a number of shrubs and perennials here. Some not on our riparian list. But this area actually is probably pretty dry, frankly. It's out of the floodplain. Know about those species at all, but I know they have a landscape architect who put this plan together, so I didn't have any major concerns about it. The Riverfront Commission reviewed this at their last meeting last week, and they thought it was appropriate and just asked a few minor questions, but they thought it was a great addition for New Belgium. And so we're recommending approval. We think it fits in the guidelines. It clearly fits in the overall design of New Belgium and is a great addition. So with that, I will turn it over to Brian. Go ahead.
They're modifying their conditional use permit, correct? That's what this is.
Not
is a
really.
modification?
No. Yeah, it's just a level. We're taking this through as a level 1.
Okay. So they don't have to go back to council. This is
No.
it, right?
No, this is pretty minor.
Okay.
There is, I will tell you all, there is another set of plans. They are adding some tanks to the brewery, and that was actually contemplated in the CUP. It was approved when it went through council, so we're still through as a level 1, just to make sure it meets building code and fire code. But it fits exactly into the design of the brewery, and it didn't make sense to bring it to you all because there's no design really altered. There's nothing to change. It's just some tanks and a lower building, and it was already kind of approved in the first go round. So.
Thank you.
Jeremy?
I'd like to make a motion.
Well,
We'll let the applicant present and first. I don't know if that's Shelley or Paul.
Yeah, it's Paul here.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for sharing your time this morning with us. And I'm Paul Mills from Russell Mills Studios. We've been working on this site since it started, and we've been the lead landscape architect, site designer, land planner for the project, with a lot of help from our friends at Equinox locally there in Asheville. This project, as Sasha summed up very well, so it's what we tried to do day one, we couldn't do day one, and finally we're here. So it's really exciting for us to move this into actuality, especially having to go through the I'd say depression of it not being added when we were first going through this. We've been really cognizant to extend all the materiality from the site through here, so there will be the same materials you see on site right now, same paver bands extending into this area, as well as the addition to the building itself will be the same material, same metal I-beams that will be the structure for that for the shelter over the existing deck, and the paint will match as well. So it will be an integrated element. Same with most of the features on here. We're very cognizant of holding that horizontal line that's in the superstructure of the liquid center and bringing that through as the horizon line that is the height of the shade you'll see. And I think one of those images that three-dimensional views that Sasha showed really captured that and how that aligns really well coming from, looking from the north. Sasha was the one that really, I think, captured that sort of motion. Yeah, one, I think, yeah, 'cause that sort of shows it as well, but mainly this one here, you'll see that that line continues out. So we really wanted to make sure that this shade element complemented the site, did not detract from it, but also really importantly, didn't detract from the view of the brew house, which is like the main building on the site. So we want to be really cognizant of how that you view out towards the north from these areas as well. So we've got a nice height, 13-foot height there, that we can then, not obstruct any of the views to the brew house from this location. But other than that, all the materials extensions are the same as it's currently there, and I think this will be great to formalize that kind of leftover space as it is right now. Thank you.
Is there any questions for the applicant, commission? Paul, I do have one question. I want to understand the materiality. I know that the shade structure is a movable fabric, but the stage and the over the deck area, those are a standing seam? Metal roofs?
They are standing seam, yes. That which matches the roof of the
Right.
liquid center.
And I have no problem with those. I just was curious about water collection for those roofs.
They
What
have
system?
a percent of fall to it that allows water to drain off of them
So
towards
not to a gutter or downspout system, but just off.
yes, the shed off.
Okay.
And one of that concepts, especially on the deck, would be more of also the experience of having almost like a waterfall coming off the edge while you're sitting there.
After this week, you might have that.
Yeah, sorry to hear about the massive flooding you guys have had. Actually, I was talking to some people. That was pretty scary in the moment, and so hopefully everyone's safe now. But yeah, so the water will easily drain off of those roofs.
But it drains off to a hard surface below, not to any kind of collection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, normally we would want to try to direct it to something, either bioswale or some kind of place to collect water. And I know you're planting around there, but is there a way for that water to get there? Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, the water goes into the planting on both locations. Okay. So behind the view right now, that's the sort of the area where people can perform underneath. That will drain into the planting behind it, and the deck. There's planting right below that deck that extends about 5 feet. The water will go into that, which will help also sort of keep that water within that planting vegetation area.
Thank you, Paul. Kimberly has her hand raised. Kim?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, is that because the roof is at an angle?
Yeah, so we want to angle. Yes,
Uh-huh.
we want to angle the roof so the water will fall off, and same with snow, etc., and not fall into the beer garden space itself. And as you know, all the water on top of the liquid center, it goes to cisterns right now, but this is a lower level canopy, so we're below that butterfly roof in terms of the canopy over the deck.
So just as I would, I have no problem with the change in planting, but I'm not a landscape architect. And I was wondering if Stephen Lee had any thoughts about the non-riparian.
So it's extremely appropriate, and it carries on a similar planting design theme that's on the rest of the site. I had a couple of thoughts just about the chasmathium in there. It's pretty invasive, but it's native. And given the level of maintenance they have on this site, I think it's extremely appropriate.
Thank you, Stephen Lee. I appreciate that. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion, if there is one from someone.
Is there any public comment?
Oh, sorry about, thank you, Jeremy. Public comment? Get this.
If not, I'll make a motion.
Not hearing anything from staff, so.
I don't see, there's no one with their hand raised in the queue. So.
Okay, thank you, Sasha. Jeremy, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and sorry I jumped the gun, but we did already review this at the River Commission, so we think it's pretty awesome. I move to recommend approval of the New Belgium deck and canopy project as presentations and materials submitted and discussions heard during this review, and find that the project meets the intent of the River District Design Review Guidelines.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded.
Thank you, Stephen Lee. Okay, I will call the roll for a vote. Jeremy Goldstein,
Aye.
Kim Hunter,
Aye.
Stephen Lee Johnson.
Aye.
Brian Moffett,
Aye.
Ben Williamson,
Aye.
and myself, Jane Matthews, aye. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So I guess we have some other things to review, staff.
Yes, so we have 2 items for informal review.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I thought I had included it.
No, we didn't get any information about
Yeah, I'm
it, just,
sorry about
just
that.
on the agenda.
Yeah, so the project, no, that's not where I want to be. The first project is 217 Hilliard, and I will, I am actually going to be the planner for this project, and I could talk about it, but Brian Cook, the architect, is here, and so is Warren Sugg and Chris Day, and I think the owner is here, so I will let them talk about it, but it was at TRC. It's a level 2 project. It was at TRC this past Monday, and I believe they are headed towards your September design review for formal review. So Brian, I'll let you talk, or whoever from your team.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you all for the time to review this with you and gain some feedback from you before we formally present. I guess, Sasha, could you scroll down to the next slide, next sheet? So this is a site at the corner of Hilliard and Grove Street. There's an existing 2.5, 3-story early 20th century house. It's now office on the site. And then at the far east end of the site is a surface parking lot. And so we're looking at using the area that's currently a surface parking lot to build a new 5-story structure. And existing house intact. Go to the next slide, please. Let's see.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Actually, you can keep going down to the elevations. I think that's 2 more sheets. There it is.
Oh.
Oops. Yeah. So, yeah. So again, a 5-story building. We are material-wise, we're looking at a brick base at the first level, at the street level, and the brick continuing up at the stair towers. And this on the left is the Hilliard elevation that you mainly see off the street. And we look at having, on that brick, looking at some sort of kind of super graphic type paint to just give it a little more flair to the branding of the building. And then on the east tower, which is the right brick tower in this elevation, you would see that as you're coming west on Hilliard, as you pass the Hotspot gas station that's right next door, and we are talking with the developers on this, with potentially doing a mural on this face, working with some local artists to add that. Other materials that we're looking at is fiber cement siding, horizontal and vertical, and then some metal panel as an accent to the form that's at the west side of the building. So that'd be the left, looking at this elevation, the far left side, and then a storefront glass on the street level, and operable windows above. If you could go, Sasha, there's a few more pages after that have the renderings. That might be good to give you all a better visual. Yeah, so this is on Hilliard looking to the east. So the white form to the kind of in the background to the left is the existing house, and we did have a request. I think Sasha, you had requested that maybe we try to model that, or do a photo montage with the actual house, just to help everybody kind of visualize where that looks. One thing, as far as I want to point out, as far as like height wise, the house sits up on a little bit up on a hill, and then the new building we're looking at is a little bit lower, and the peak roof of the existing house is within, it's like 9 or 10, it's gonna be like 9 or 10 feet below the peak of the roof of the new building. So if you're looking at those in context of like straight on elevation, they're going to be fairly close in height. So this is not going to be this is not going to be a building that's really towering over the existing building next door. Yeah, so that's looking to the east, and if you go to the next page, that's looking to the west. So the small building on the right that's in white, that's the hotspot. And as many of you probably know, within this part of the street, there's not a whole lot of context. There's not a lot of structures that meet the current design, city downtown design guidelines as far as having the buildings up, to the street, to sidewalk. So most everything is set back, including across the street.
I'll go back, Brian. I'm just
Okay. No, that's yeah.
So this is your
Taking us for a drive.
One thing we are looking at that I'd love to get anyone's feedback on is the building will be close to the property lines, and in this image you can sort of see in the shade at the ground level between the building the part of the building that's facing the hotspot. That's to be pretty close. Obviously you've got a driveway that's coming into the hotspot. People are hanging out. So we're trying to look at ways to still provide some privacy for residents that are in these units. And we are looking at a screen wall of some sort along the property line for that first level. And we've kind of bounced back and forth between, is it something that's a masonry wall that again has some sort of mural work on it, but then again we don't want to get too over the top with murals everywhere. So another idea is maybe looking at some sort of like perforated decorative metal panel that could just provide, again, just basically act like a fence line, but not be a chain link fence, and have a little more architectural feature to it. That's the gist of it. Unless Chris or Warren, if you have anything you want to add.
I'll just show the site plan really quick. So.
I'll just add for the group's understanding, we had TRC on Monday, and that went very positive, and we're approved with conditions, a few little things that we have to work through. And we actually have had a follow-up with Ken Putnam on the streetscape and working through sidewalk and the bike lane and other lanes through that area. So we're very excited about how it's turning out, and looking forward to moving it forward.
One thing to add to what Warren said, there is currently the pedestrian zone is really just kind of a stripe on the pavement. And so this project will actually put the 10-foot sidewalk, required CBD 10-foot sidewalk along the property frontage, but then we're also extending out this and creating a real sidewalk down to Grove Street along the in front of the existing wall. And then, as Warren said, working with Ken Putnam, we're actually shifting some stuff so that the existing bike lane out there is like 4.5 feet wide to 3.5 feet wide, and we're going to be able to expand that, Warren, out to 5, I think, down through there.
That's right. That's what we agreed to, was a 5 with Ken.
What is the material for that new little piece of wall where you're connected to the existing stone wall, where yours is wider than theirs? Yeah, that little diagonal line. Thank you.
That diagonal line has now changed, and we've extended the 10-foot sidewalk all the way to the property line.
Right. Yeah, and that was one of my PRC comments, is for design review, we'll need to have the material. So Brian's asking do you all have a plan for that material, or?
Yeah, I don't think we have a material just yet. I think we probably need to huddle up and decide, should that be related more to the new building, or relate more to the existing granite wall that's in place.
If I could jump in, my 2 cents, I think it should be the new language. Don't try to get matchy on that the cool old wall. But where your stuff comes in, it should be new, and then just join up to it at a right angle. That's part of what I was asking about, so that it whatever you're doing, excuse me, for your base, I would just continue that over.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. That's I think that's the way we would like to lean anyway. So thank you, Brian.
And then
Thanks,
I guess for me, one question would be like, the building's going to be somewhere here, right? So I don't know if there's anything to be done with the old stones from this wall that are coming down. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the new wall that we would be putting in that L shape, it's going to be retaining some soil. And I know that existing wall is providing some retainage, but trying to rebuild that to support.
Absolutely, no, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying maybe, I don't know, just don't throw it away, I guess I'm saying.
Yeah, can it be reused architecture, landscape wise? And Brian, and again, this is the first time I am seeing it, but I noticed there's a retaining wall at the rear of the property as well, and I'm wondering what that is.
Yeah, that'll be really close to the building, and that's something we've got to determine as well.
Designed by others, I guess it isn't yours bailiwick, huh?
That's probably going to be a part of by the structural engineer. It's a part of the building. There is an existing, and you can see in this plan that the dark gray sort of upside down L-shaped line, that is an existing granite stone retaining wall that's on the adjacent property. I don't know if you can see it. It's not in great shape. One thing we had talked about sort of internally was maybe seeing if we can talk with the neighboring property and work at redeveloping that retaining wall so that it benefits both parties.
Yeah, and so what we end up with back there, because the property to the north is at a higher elevation, and that offsite granite wall is retaining some of that property to the north, and then that whole parking lot slopes up from Hilliard back up towards this area. So when we push it down, we're creating kind of a well, like a recessed well situation back there. And to Brian's credit, the design by others was something Warren and I put on the plan, saying we weren't going to be the ones designing it, but it'll, like he said, it'll fall in like structural aspect of.
We've never heard that, right, Brian?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, and there'll be a similar. There's a wall that's right in between the building, sort of the little nook in this page at the left of the building, between the existing building and the new building. So there's a grade change there. So there'll be a wall. Really, that's going to be more of like a knee wall, but it will be, somewhat of a retaining wall. And again, I think with that as well, we would look at that being similar material to what's working with the existing, or I'm sorry, the new building.
You asked about the screen wall, that between the convenience store and your apartments, the low wall. I know we have looked at some things that have like a screen, but then have planting as well integrated with that. I don't know, that might be something to look at,
Okay.
some kind of vegetative screen wall that, will at least allows air into those apartments, but also maybe gives them some greenness and some planting, maybe some shade.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any thoughts from the committee about the general like massing and?
I have a question for staff because I have never, we haven't done a lot of design review for downtown, some of us. The whole issue of murals, is that something that's regulated by somebody else, or is that through the design review? Brian shaking his head's design review.
It should be, it should be us, something
But
that's
do you see
significant.
it? Do you see design, or does it have to come back to you, or how does that work? You just approve it generally saying, yeah, go for it, whatever it is.
We've done both. We've done both where it was a condition that they come back when they settled on the final design, because most of the time, especially at this phase, it's kind of a placeholder, which I'm assuming this is kind of maybe. Although it's probably like the direction you're wanting to go, but it's a placeholder at this point in time. So I would assume we would approve the idea of a mural or art or something along those lines, and then as they nail down the specifics, they could come back to us.
So I saw Stephen Lee had a hand raised.
Thank you. I think in terms of the mural, I do think that it's important on this project, and as we go forward with this new committee, murals of this size have such a strong impact on the public realm that I think that they definitely need to be reviewed before this body, and comment needs to be received. Thank you.
I hear that. Thank you, Stephen Lee. Okay. Are there any other comments from anybody? Hearing none. If there is a motion, Brian.
I'll jump quick. I generally, are we making a motion, or is this a preliminary review?
Oh, it's a preliminary review. Okay.
So we don't need to make a motion.
No, I'm sorry.
If everybody likes it, and thinks it's great, then feel free to push it on through.
No. We need to go through the real process. Be nice, Brian, but no.
Sorry, I tried.
That's my error. I appreciate it. Yeah. Kimberly has a hand raised. Kim?
Yeah, thanks. So I often go back to lighting, and I know that's not exactly what we're reviewing here, but it does change, the streetscape and also the ability for visibility. So do you have any already in your work about external lighting? Can we look at that a little?
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't have that in place yet, but what we would anticipate would be building mounted lighting that would highlight the sidewalk and the area directly in front of the building. That's pretty much it. The building, the building's taking up most of the sites. There's not really landscape areas or site areas for the building, but as far as lighting, we'll have some wall sconces that or wall packs that are mounted on the building that just again highlight the area in front of the building. It would also highlight the sidewalk, keep that well lit.
I guess I have a question thank you for that, for city staff. Again, I understand this project is not the street, but just for my own knowledge, when you have a building like this going into an area that is high pedestrian foot traffic, like it means just so much, and public transportation, putting something there that and rightfully so, that has multiple stories, that changes the lighting, the streetscape, and it's near a public park. What other components or committees are required to review for those things? I think I'm thinking about public back and forth and what that might look like if it's too dark, but there's a shadow cast and things like that.
I think that it just follows the same review process in general. I don't think there's we don't, for those reasons you just talked about, it doesn't change the review process. So public input will be, when the downtown commission sees it, it could be from the downtown commission, it could be at this committee, we'll take public comment. And then when it goes to planning and zoning commission, they also take public comment. They have to follow the city's lighting ordinance, which is, kind of a dark sky friendly ordinance. So there's not a ton really there, I guess.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm still learning, and I just know that even though a building like this would be important on that parcel, there's also non-design related opportunities to really make sure that the way people use that street is not shifted in a manner that then scares people from being there because there's not enough lighting, there's not enough openness, I just again want to draw our attention to those things, because in development, lighting matters for many, many people. There's a lot of wheelchair users on that road.
Right. Yeah, and that's it's a good question. Something I need to learn about is when, and maybe if Shannon wants to join in, I'm not sure when the city decides to put in new street lights, the taller lights. I'm not sure what our standards are for that and how that works, but I can find that out and bring it back to you all.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing, just, besides the lighting topic, but you mentioned, just the amount of pedestrians that use this area, which is so true. It's, there's people constantly navigating along this area, but right now there is no actual sidewalk. People are walking and biking in the street, and there's just a white line that's painted that represents the edge of sidewalk. So this part of this project, this development will provide new sidewalk and curb and street trees. So there's definitely creating a safer environment for pedestrians walking down an already pretty busy road.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge improvement for the sidewalk.
Well, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Brian Moffett.
Yeah. Can you pull up the downtown from Hilliard? I want to look at that this big wing.
Pull up the what? I'm sorry.
One of the perspective views that shows the big yellow wing that's projected out over the roof. I'm sorry, Brian. I don't know how to. Yeah, that one. Perfect.
What is that?
Is that a roof?
What is it, Brian?
That is a roof covering or a hole with a hole in it. Yes, still in the works, but yeah, basically it's a shading element.
Not shading much.
Well, I'll go ahead and react to some design stuff. So I generally like what you're doing. I like the building. I kind of like the massing. I like the two, the way you're identifying the two towers. I feel like the pedestrian entrance is sufficiently delineated, like the main entrance. It actually could be a little stronger that main lobby entrance. It looked like there were, you have that exit out of the stair tower on the right-hand side, but then the main entrance, I think, is the one right beside the main tower. And I'd like to see something that delineates the difference between the exit and the entrance. Am I making sense, Brian?
Absolutely.
Just a little bit. It just needs to be stronger. I don't know exactly what I'm asking for, but right now I can't quite tell which one I'm supposed to go in. I think I can. I mean, because you've got the overhang and stuff. I think that could be a little bit stronger. I like the base. I generally like the building organization. The wing either needs to be stronger or needs to be gone. I don't know how to put that. It's like it looks like it's a little tacked on right now. Forgive me, but it's like it needs to be. I don't know, Jane, am I making any sense? It's like it wants to be something a little bit more, like it covers even more of the roof, or it's a little more dynamic, or it projects out a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not doing anything for me right now. I mean, I think what you're saying about the entrance, if there was some extension of that yellow band, maybe at an entryway or something, to help define it, maybe that was where you put your money. Yeah.
Those are some good comments, and that was something we have been continuing to play with and struggling with. One is trying to meet the fenestration requirements, for this first level, and that's where all the glass in that the right stair tower came in.
Gotcha.
So we can meet that requirement. I mean, you're right. That is only an exit. I mean, it's only meant to be an exit, but it does have an entry feature. But we'll look at trying to emphasize the main entrance more with some sort of maybe it's something in the pavement or different coloring, framing.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you reverse kind of some. So one of the things you're doing in the fenestration is you've got that graphic kind of bleeding over into the adjacent storefront. Maybe you do something like that, but it really accentuates the entrance. I don't know. And again, I see what you're doing. You've got that yellow line that it just doesn't show up as dramatically in the perspectives for that front entrance. And if you're going to do that, your metal, it's called a metal awning, but I like to say wing. Your airfoil up top, maybe you make something in it, even for the front entrance, to draw attention to it. I don't know, Brian. I'm just throwing stuff out. Anyway, I think that's your really distinctive piece right now, and I'd like to. I don't know. I'd like to see it be even more distinctive, and then work on the main entrance. And then, like I said, I think you are going to continue over your retaining wall on the left-hand side, or your building is going to kind of move over to the left-hand side a little bit. And maybe how you do that will also inform how you do your screen wall on the right-hand side of the south building elevation in the back. You'll have similar language to it. Does that make sense?
That does. Yeah. Thank you.
I like the materials. The fenestration's pretty good. And we'll look at the murals when you get them nailed down.
Yeah. And do you see that as, because I guess we haven't, fully determined how we'll do this, but, one of the clients, who owns some properties already in town, that's worked with some muralists on their buildings. They've done this, but I assume we probably, at some point end up with some proposals from muralists. I don't know when that would be. I mean, I guess one thing I've found with some other projects that are new projects in the works is a lot of muralists would really want to see like the actual medium in place, and so that may not happen until after the building is complete. So I guess how do you see that process going with with approvals and what we present to you?
So this is a new board, so we're going to make it up as we go. But I think the way I could see us doing it is that we can approve the concept of a mural in specific locations as part of what we review. And then, just like a sign or anything else, you come out with, so you hire, for example, Brush Can or somebody like that to do the mural. And then they come up with a specific proposal. And after they've reviewed what they're going to do, then they bring that back. And then we review that on that specific mural in that specific location. That would be my.
Yeah, I don't think it wouldn't hold you up. I mean, we're not going to hold this building up for a mural. You would go through your process, and even if you want to build it, you do all that. And what Brian said, I think, is right.
Okay.
Okay, Jeremy, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking for a mandatory review, voluntary compliance situation that seems to work. But let's say this was a hotel. I guess the same thing. You just approve the idea of it, and then if we don't like it, they just can't do it.
Think of it like a sign. So, Jeremy, like we approve on commercial buildings or whatever all the time. We approve, okay, they're going to put a sign in this location. And so we can approve the sign location, but it's not the specific sign proposal. That still has to go through its own process. And we do the same thing.
Sorry, I think what Jeremy's asking is that, even if, like, say, this project came back in a year, it's still a voluntary compliance thing, but for a hotel, it might be different.
Well,
So
yeah,
Shannon,
I'm just wondering.
Shannon's raised her hand, and let Shannon maybe.
So as I was listening to this conversation, it reminded me that I had related to a similar or a different project. I had a similar value proof when it's a conditional zoning going to council, or if it's a hotel that is seeking a by right approval. And I think the solution may be asking the applicant to work through the city's public art program. So rather than put the decision about, what is suitable mural art or other art in the hands of a design review, we have a formal process and a committee who's established for this exact purpose. And I think that might be the direction we may want to encourage people to go. I've reached out to the staff person who manages this program to try to understand that a little bit better and see what her thoughts are. And that consider as an option.
I think that's a good suggestion. I don't know if at some point we need to formalize that into the recommendations or the bylaws for the committee, just as a guidance for applicants like Brian, staff to consider.
Right.
Yeah,
we'll
bring back some more
something that
information
probably
on
needs
that.
more. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a little different, because I think when the public art board usually is reviewing its actual piece of, like the one on the A-Loft garage, that's an actual piece of City of Asheville public art. And I don't think they usually review things on private buildings. And I don't, so that's a different, it gets, we will come back to you with some more information.
Be helpful. Will be helpful. And I think the massing and all is fine. It does a good job. The one thing I always have and it's a bailiwick I have, and I'm new again to this committee and haven't done downtown design review, but I'm not a big fan, and I might as well just say it, of fiber cement in downtown. I don't think it's a very urban material. I have no problem with your metal panels. I think that's appropriate, and the brick masonry, but the fiber cement is showing up a lot, and it's just really not very urban. It's not very downtown. I know it's cheap. And so a lot of people, and I understand they're trying to do affordable housing. It's a material, but that's my bias. And I will admit to that being a bias and not part of the guidelines, because the guidelines allow it. But just we'll get that on the table.
And Jane, I'm on board with you on that. On that statement. We typically, we are saying, fiber cement siding, but we typically look at more of the thicker panels that are more commercial applications. And
Ichihaha or something like that.
Ichiha, or even, I mean, Hardy makes some as well that, that has a, more of like a shiplap or, V-groove.
Yeah, I keep saying these will be run down within a short period of time. They don't hold up as well as a masonry or metal.
Yeah.
But I'm not the only one. Jeremy has a comment. I can see your hand raised, Jeremy.
Well, I mean, you guys started to, and I'm not a designer, so take that for what it is, but you started to hit on what are all fiber cements equal? There's low density, there's high density. I've seen some really cool urban Nichiha, but again, I don't have the knowledge of how long they hold up. And I definitely hear what you're saying, Jane. There's more of an institutional quality building material that will stand up. But anyway, just.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jeremy. And yeah, I think you start, as we drive through downtown, we're starting to see more and more of this. And I just think we're losing a little bit of the urban context of downtown with it. So that's my own bias. And I will admit to it being a bias and not a guideline. But as a designer, I see this and it's just not, it's just kind of it's kind of grating against me. And I understand the pressures of materiality and cost too. So, I understand that, appreciate that.
I was honestly reading it more as the Nichiha when I saw all the vertical stuff. I was just assuming it was that really the reveal panel that they had.
Yeah, it's a mix. Yeah. But appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you all for your input.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing it formally. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Sasha, you said you have a second project under just for discussion.
We do, and Laura Hudson is here for 48 South Market, and I'm going to let her share her screen. This is a historic building, and the project is adding it's a third or fourth floor to the top of the building, but I'll let her talk through it.
All right, thanks for sticking around. I won't keep you guys too long. So I'm going to quickly I'm going to share my screen and then orient you where the building is, show you some existing photos, and take it from there. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm working on a project right now that's located at 48 South Market Street. It's this little sliver of a building right here next to the Eagle Market Street development. And it's kind of the last little building that hasn't been touched in this completely rebuilt district area where you have the Foundry Hotel and the new 55 South Market condos. So some photos. This is what the building looks like right now. Sasha, I can't remember the year it was built. I want to say early 20th century. And as you can see, there's not much of what was historic that's left. It's been modified many times over the years. And as you come around, these windows were actually added, we think like in 2014 or something, but we can't find any information on it. They just showed up between the Google Earth one day. As you come around, let's see, the back, you can see there's the large Eagle Market Street kind of towering up behind it. And they've stepped back to create a courtyard area and a light well. This is the back side. It's completely falling apart. And then as you go around this side, you can see now we're kind of standing in the light well created by Eagle Market Street. And this is the hollow clay brick infill, and it's got lots of holes. There's some pigeons that go back and forth. It's, I don't think it's really meant to be a facade, so it's kind of exposed. Okay, so that's the existing building. So what we're trying to do is add a third story. We're going to, right now it's not used as anything. It has no power, no HVAC, no plumbing. We're going to add a third story, scoop out the middle, and make it a mixed-use project with office at the first floor and then 2 residential condos above. And we're looking at something like this. So these walls are on the property line. And if we go back really quickly to the, there's this little bit of land right here. It's really just being used for some overflow parking and the dumpsters that serve, it's owned by a group that works on these restaurants. So unfortunately, we'd love to own this piece of property, but my client does not. So we're treating, these, taking away those glass block window things and cleaning these up again, setting back over 5 feet so that we can kind of come in with a new building that grows out of the existing building, adding fenestration, kind of keeping with the foundry across the street, kind of the brick industrial building. While we do want to use aluminum windows, they would have the kind of that historic steel window look. We're looking at ways that we can cover these portions, and you guys brought up all your exactly what we'd like to do here. The owner is a big fan of just hiring an artist and letting them go to town. But we're talking about different ways. I know that material, this brick here, if we go back to the original photo, it's not in good shape. It's already been painted, and the structural engineers don't think it could withstand the kind of sandblasting to bring back that brick patina, the color. So we're kind of committed to repointing and painting. And so therefore we thought we could use more of the red brick as the new portion. And we're looking at maybe a thin to match that then gets painted on these kind of wing walls, or it could be a 3-part stucco. Haven't really decided. And then as you can see, we have some metal panel that kind of wraps around the backside, so that entire area we'd wrap with, close the building up and give it a probably a vertical ribbed metal panel, wrap it in here. And I also have some, let's see, here's elevations. You can kind of see how it grows out. We have a little bit of screening to protect these roof deck areas, so that the new building is set back from the front and the back and the side. We come back, replace the windows, and rebuild the back facade with a garage. And then as you can see, we have our building is the site. So we'll work on repairing sidewalk, bringing it to standards. We'll add a street tree, but that's about it for site work.
Are there any comments or questions from Ms. Hudson?
So the existing openings that currently have that glass block, those are going away or getting covered up, in those 2. And I'm just curious what's going on in plan.
Oh, sure.
That you don't have openings there.
Well, we've tried to make all the openings, it's because well, theoretically someone could build right up against this building. So we couldn't build, and if you, Chapter 7 or won't let you put windows on the property line.
Okay.
In this situation.
Perfect. Is that a mechanical unit I see sitting beside the door in the little courtyard you're creating?
We're going to put some of the mechanical units for the residentials up above. I can go here, 3D. There will be mechanical area up here for residential units, but we're thinking for the office tenant, it might be better to have theirs accessible at the ground level, and that's our only outdoor space right there. So we could add a little, I don't know, fenced area
at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. And we might put it over here in this corner and screen it.
Okay. And you said now all of that I'm looking at for the new building that you're kind of building in the middle of this, that's all brick.
Well, it
with
is.
different
The brick
details.
wraps around each corner, and then we kind of pick it up as metal panel, and that's what happens all the way down this backside and at the parapet.
Okay, that's not visible from the street though. That's just the courtyard.
But this little bit up here at the front.
Okay.
And part of that is, you know, building brick elevated over existing structure, where to capture the lintel, that kind of thing. It comes into play. So.
And you're replacing all the windows, or
Oh, yeah.
not in the existing? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, none of them are original.
Okay.
Laura, do you have a view from the street? Because I think the new floor is set back, which is kind of follows like national, like Secretary of Interior guidelines, that for a new floor you want it set back.
We're definitely trying to differentiate the new from the old.
And I'm just thinking, like from the street, you won't see it.
Not much. You'll see more of the inset piece here.
Sure. Yeah, I was thinking more just from.
But not necessarily from the
From
front.
boundary, you won't see very.
Not much. It'll be stepped back a good 20 feet.
Can you go back to your model so I can see what the handrail looks like at the top of this existing wall? Yeah. So that's just a cable
Really
rail or
defined it, but the idea is just to keep it just simple.
Okay.
Deal.
And then you said you on the back side of the alley, you just got a little garage door and such.
So yeah, we're going to rebuild this wall. It's falling apart. As you can see, there's big openings. It's a mess. So we'll come back. And the alley is actually 4 feet above. You can't see this. It kind of comes up a hill just a little bit, and this is 4 feet higher. So we'll have the windows for the second unit. Each one of these is a 2-story unit.
Okay.
And so we'll have the windows on the back side to the alley, and then this will be the back entrance and egress. And then this is the garage for the residents.
Okay.
And then if you're interested, the floor plan, level 1, this is the piece that is leased to an office or business tenant, retail. This is the back garage. There's an elevator. We've got egress running in and out both ways. And then up at the 3rd level, where you can see this is the extent of the new portion of the building. And then this is the roof deck on either side.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Hudson? Comments? Well, thank you, Laura. I'm glad to see you're using some brick to relate to the boundary. After my last comments.
It seemed appropriate for this, and we're hoping someone never builds in front of us, but
yeah,
yeah,
you're doing the right thing because it could happen. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we'll submit formally. We just wanted to give you a preview to see if you had any immediate feedback. If not, we'll just move forward, and we'll have some renderings made. Try to include the building behind it, show it a little more in context.
Are you thinking you would want to come back to the next meeting in September?
I think we're going to need October to get everything done.
Okay. That's probably better. Our agenda is going to be pretty big on September. So.
Great.
Can you zoom in on the? It looks like you've got an overhang for those I know where I want to zoom in and I can't zoom in. I keep scrolling. My Revit's moving around and yours isn't. The little overhang
Above on the roof decks you're talking about?
Deck,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, up here.
Yeah, the little flat piece.
Right here. I'm not sure. We're looking at this as like a kind of a trellis, little shade piece.
Okay.
And I really want it cantilevered without any support and how that's going to look. But you know, the idea that it kind of build it in, but it's almost like the roof comes out and then it becomes porous. It's this little piece. And there as well, just to create some shade.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like it needs to be a lot lighter than it.
Yeah. Brian's looking for that sky hook, Laura.
Well, so is the structural engineer. So well, that's the idea, though, to lighten it up. And whether you read, you know, here we've captured all the soffit and the parapet with a fascia, and maybe up here we express the structure and leave it kind of more delicate.
Agreed. Yes. Okay. That's nice. Yeah.
Kim, you have a
I was just
comment?
going to add, keep in mind, you know, you mentioned you hope no one builds anything next to you, but if you extend that area out, then there's a loss of natural light. So maybe not having that piece protrude is a better option in general.
Here and here?
On the ends where you're saying is like the deck area or the sun shaded area.
Right.
That's my only thought. It's like, it works for now, but if something gets built next door, then there's a lot of loss of potential light. So,
I mean, I think that's a risk we take downtown, regardless. And that, I mean, it's a good point. So, we'll take a look.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to coming back and seeing more. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
I'm ready for a motion.
No, we're not there. Not on this one. Thank
No,
you.
to adjourn.
To adjourn. I don't think we have any other business, do we? Session?
No, and I think we may have a public comment section, but there's no one in the queue waiting to speak. So.
Okay.
We did not receive any email comments for this meeting.
Yeah, I'm juggling paper here. I apologize. Okay, Jeremy, I think you're good to go if you want to make a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn. Thank you all.
A second? At least a second from Brian, and Sage is waving. So, okay, we'll see you all next month, and thank you, staff, for guiding us through this. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks,
All right,
everyone.
take good care.